Om Gyantimirandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Chakshu Ungalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Smayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Padati Sva Padati Va. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Cha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Panamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitaram Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 Chapter 8 Continuation Prayers by Queen Kunti. And now we're getting towards the climax of the chapter as the prayers get very, very specific in terms of the benefits of that Krishna provides through his teachings on how one should live life in Krishna consciousness. Imam, this is verse 40. Ime jana pada swadya supakvaksari virudaha manadri nadyuda vanto ye dante tavaviksitai. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. Trees are full of fruits, the rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals, and the ocean full of wealth, and this is all due to your glancing over them. Human prosperity flourishes by natural gifts and not by gigantic industrial enterprises. The gigantic industrial enterprises are products of a godless civilization, and they cause the destruction of the noble aims of human life. Prabhupada gets right to the point. These industrial adventures that are so all-pervasive in our present-day lifestyle are simply godless attempts to exploit the earth, exploit resources, people's human resources, and natural resources. And as Prabhupada gets to the point, they destroy the noble aims of human life. We all have experience of this. The more we go on increasing such troublesome industries to squeeze out the vital energy of the human being, the more there will be unrest and dissatisfaction of the people in general, although only a few can live lavishly by exploitation. So there's a handful of people who claim to be the controllers, and because of that, they are squeezing everyone, trying to get as much as they can from everyone, both in resources, time, energy, and natural and finances. The natural gifts such as grains and vegetables, fruits, rivers, the hills of jewels and minerals, the seas full of pearls, all supplied by the order of the Supreme. And as he desires, material nature produces them in abundance or restricts them at times. The natural law is that the human being may take advantage of these godly gifts by nature and satisfactorily flourish on them without being captivated by the exploitive motive of lording it over material nature. So here's the problem: trying to control material nature for one's selfish interest causes one to struggle hard unnecessarily. The more we attempt to exploit material nature according to our whims of enjoyment, the more we shall become entrapped by the actions of such exploitative nature. And the more you try to disobey your mother, the more she will punish you. So here is an example. If we have sufficient grains, fruits, vegetables, and herbs, then what is the necessity of running a slaughterhouse and killing poor animals? A man need not kill an animal if he has sufficient grains and vegetables to eat. The flow of river waters fertilizes the fields. And there is more than what we need. Minerals are produced in hills and the jewels in the ocean. If the human civilization has sufficient grains, minerals, jewels, water, milk, etc., then why should it hanker after terrible industrial enterprises at the cost of the labor of some unfortunate men? But all these natural gifts are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. What we need, therefore, is to be obedient to the laws of the Lord and achieve the perfection of human life by devotional service. These indications by Kunti Devi are just to the point. She desired that God's mercy be bestowed upon them so that natural prosperity be maintained by His grace. Don't move it. Just leave it where it is. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is, Prabhupada gets right to the point. Today's Western industrial civilization simply is centered around an artificial lifestyle meant to exploit nature, animals, men, and try to squeeze out as much false economic gain as they can. And what's the expense? The earth gets exploited, the earth gets destroyed. People work hard in these, we call them factories, but they're actually places of suffering. I remember when I was a kid, I worked in a factory and it was just miserable. And the smells, the environment, the attitude of the people working, it was just like, it's like going into a subterranean jail or something. So yeah, and there are people are being forcibly sent into these places in order to try to eke out some livelihood, to get just some money. But here, everything's being provided by the Lord. And we can see that if one becomes Krishna conscious, there is never any shortage. Krishna will always provide for his devotee, and he always provides more than what is needed. Mother Nature is the agent for supplying or restricting the abundance of her own gifts by the arrangement of the Lord. When people are pious and live according to the laws of God, it says here, therefore, it is just as we become obedient to the laws of God and perfect our life by engaging in devotional service, everything becomes wonderful. Unfortunately, that is not the case in the world today, and it is becoming more and more hellish. But if we study nature, we can see how nature works. Rains come and they fertilize the ground, and then the ground becomes ready for planting. You plant your seeds, you cultivate the crops, you have wonderful vegetables, you plant fruit trees. Water is supplied by the earth. There are many places within the earth that all you have to do is drill a little bit down and you find natural water resources already there in the earth. And then you have the water from the rivers, and that fertilizes. Everything here is the perfect economic arrangement. But we live in this society where everything is topsy-turvy. And good people who want to make an honest living in life and want to worship God are victimized by these false sense of livelihood based on getting as much as they can. They want to make bigger vegetables. So what do? They artificially produce these GMO vegetables and fruits like that. You get these big looking apples and different kinds of vegetables, but there's no nutrition in them. They're nutritionless, and the taste is somewhat reduced. So they artificially are trying to become God themselves by playing with the material nature in order to speed the amount of produce that comes into their hands. Therefore, they can make money faster and faster. But everything is being arranged by God. One doesn't have to worry about this. All of this is naturally there. It says that there's a particular astrological constellation. And during that constellation, if it rains at that time, then the water that falls on the head of an elephant becomes jewels. If it falls on the head of a snake, it becomes also valuable minerals. And if it falls into the ocean, it produces pearls. So just by natural arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nature is supplying everything nicely in a natural way, in a healthy way to live. But as Prabhupada wants to make a point here, the godless civilization is destroying the noble aims of human life, and people are not happy. Disease is rampant everywhere. People don't eat good, healthy food. They don't drink good, clear, purified water. They don't breathe clean air. Everything has been destroyed by this society who simply wants to make money, and they don't care how they do it. I was driving along the road yesterday and I was seeing these big, gigantic smokestacks pouring out big billows of contamination into the atmosphere, just pouring it out. And if there's any birds or anything around, they're finished, they're killed. The atmosphere becomes, hard to breathe. And people who work inside these mills and factories, what is their, we could go on all day, but the point is that if people are God conscious, then everything is supplied by nature automatically in abundance. Not only God conscious, even if people are pious, what to speak about God conscious, then God will provide everything. But because people are sinful and others are exploitive, then we have so many calamities. You have weather problems, earthquakes, you have droughts, hurricanes, uh, mm, just pollution. I remember when I was in Mumbai, they have what is called the pollution air index reading. And I think they have a certain scale by which they judge the polluted air, to what degree is the pollution. And if it goes up to number 20, it's still safe. If it goes to 100, it's considered an emergency. The air is really polluted. But when I was in Mumbai, it was over 500. The air was so polluted that actually the sun was actually curved. One could not even see the sun because of the pollution. It was just like a hazy mist that was coming through a cloud of pollution. So how long can this go on? Before everything will collapse, and that's what's happening. So yeah, so becoming God consciousness not only is about becoming self-realized, but it means to live according to the laws of God, the laws of nature. One who's God conscious doesn't exploit. One who's God conscious is not greedy for large amounts of material products or wealth. One who's God consciousness lives according to the mercy of the Lord and lives happily, free from anxiety. So we see how the earth is one of the mothers. There are 7 mothers, and Mother Earth is one of them. And she is a living organism. She's not just some piece of dirt that people stand on. It's actually a living organism. She is the daughter of she is the wife of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the unmanifested form of mercy given to the conditioned souls. God doesn't have to go out of his way to provide for us to live here, but he does it, and that's his love for the living entities. Even though we rebel against him and come to this material world to live separately from him, he still provides everything nicely for our livelihood here, as is being explained in this verse. In the next verse also you'll hear. So Queen Kunti is saying, hey, because of your glancing over them, everything is there. Minerals there, wealth is there, rivers are flowing, trees are full of fruit, herbs and grains are in abundance. The villages and the cities everything is nicely arranged. So when Krishna is pleased, the whole world benefits. But nobody's trying to please Krishna. Everyone is trying to please their own lusty desires by getting more and more and more. So we have a society that's quite dysfunctional, and therefore we find in the world now there's large movements back to the earth. Even more so than what's happening in our ISKCON society, people in general are seeing the need to revert back to a more simplified lifestyle. And there are many organized movements in the world that are working to develop that. The only thing missing is some of them are not God conscious. And because of that, they will not be successful. Because in order to be successful, you must worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the provider of everything. He is the provider, he is the maintainer of everything that we have. He maintains it and he also provides for it. So Krishna consciousness is the all-inclusive program for success on all levels of existence. And when people are not Krishna conscious, they always act in the wrong way. They always see themselves as being the center, and therefore everything is meant for their enjoyment. A materialist person sees that way. They see themselves as the center and the world around them for their own enjoyment. And therefore they make plans, sometimes very elaborate plans, to squeeze out the natural resources of the earth as much as possible. But it can only go to a certain level, and then after everything will implode and everything, the earth is already reacting in the form of calamities and catastrophes. That's already happening in many countries around the world. Even in the United States, it's happening a lot. Droughts, famines, different types of climatic weather catastrophes. All of this is all due to godlessness and exploitation of Krishna's natural resources. So it's like we have the history of the United States of America. It was a country that people came from Europe because it was so abundant with natural resources. Why? Because the people who lived there before them, the Red Indians, although they had their own understanding of the Supreme Lord, they were at least to some degree God conscious. And they had a great reverence for Mother Earth, knowing that Mother Earth was the provider of everything. They centered their whole worship around worshiping the earth as the supreme deity, and not in a way that honored the earth, rather than in a way that exploited the earth. And so, yeah. So what more can we say on this by simply describing the present situation? But when one is God conscious, and then Krishna is pleased, and when Krishna is pleased, then everything is nice. And as it says here, obviously all these things are due to your glancing over them. Queen Kunti is connecting everything auspicious back to the presence of the Lord. And she has a realization that only things can be auspicious with when the Lord is pleased. And when the Lord is pleased, then he glances over everything, and everything becomes a source of nourishment, a source of happiness for the living entities. So as a society, we have to see how both to maintain ourselves nicely and not be so much dependent on this Western materialistic society to provide whatever we need. Even if they do provide, the quality of what's being given is of a low standard. And people really don't get much in the way of quality. Okay, we'll stop there.
Thank you, Maharaj, for explaining about this word so nicely. Thank you so much. I request devotees, if you have any questions, reflections, please go ahead. Also, please turn on your videos. It'd be nice to see you all. Thank you for turning on your video. Please go ahead with your question. What is so important? This also reminds me of our sessions which we had about importance of farm community, how we should live simply. So I'm sure there will be many questions, reflections on this. Please go ahead. Yes, Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for explaining to us the follies of following this industrialized lifestyle, which is causing so much destruction to our planet, to our life, to our future, to everything. We see the need and the urgency for moving to a simpler, natural, harmonious way of life with Mother Nature. And we want to take those steps towards that. But how do we as individuals make that, how do we make a beginning and how do we progress at our individual level? Was I audible, Vrinda Kumari Devi?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Looks like Maharaj is very tired today.
I'm okay, don't worry about me. I'm just waiting for the questions, that's all. What did Sridevi, did you ask your question yet?
I'll ask Guru Maharaj. My question is this: we see how difficult life has become with this godless civilization and how detrimental it is. And we know the urgency of moving to a simpler, more natural, harmonious lifestyle. But how do we make a beginning at our individual level? How do we actually do that?
No, you just pattern whatever's been done in the past, that's all. People are doing it. The hardest part is the mental transition from this Western convenient, so-called convenient lifestyle to a more simpler lifestyle. Making the transition in the mind is the harder part. We have to undergo a little bit of what we say, change. But it can't be done individually, it has to be done in a larger group. So community is what is the foundation for it.
So a group of like-minded individuals coming together and formulating a plan to actually live simply, live off the earth, follow the lifestyle that is conducive for health.
The devotees are doing it now. I'm meeting people when I go in different places. They're getting land. People are making plans to do that. And then the non-devotees are doing it in a big way right now. Yeah, because people can see that this lifestyle is not only soul killing, but it won't be able to continue. It won't be able to perpetuate itself. So that's one way. Takes time. There's always a transition. But if you have a group, if you have about 2 or 3 families come together and say, let's do it, and then you have a good start in terms of numbers. All you need is 1 cow, to start off. But depending on the environment, where you do it, there's a lot of variables, which country you do it in. But it's plan making first, and then based on a plan, then you try to carry it out. First thing you have to do is establish a somewhat of a lifestyle for the people who are starting it. In other words, you have to have a little bit of you have to have some food, you have to have some resources. So when you make the transition, you can continue to live. So if you have some money, you can start off in that way, and then gradually depend more and more on the project. You see, people, it's natural. People who work hard in the cities, on the weekends, they want to go out to some serene and more pleasant surroundings. It's just natural for the human being to want that type of environment. So why not live in that environment instead of just making it a relief from the lifestyle that one is presently undergoing? So yeah, it takes a plan. I mean, there's so many people doing it, and even the non-devotees have some good plans for it. But our advantage and their disadvantage is that they don't see the need for God consciousness. We do, because God consciousness is the difference between success and failure.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I pray that we all get the inspiration, at least even 2 or 3 families coming together, and we make a beginning, and that can be like a prototype or a precursor, and then, success breeds success, as they say, and it encourages others, then inspires others also, like that.
Success is the example for others. As soon as one place becomes successful, becomes the prototype for others to follow. So it's not going to happen overnight. You got to work at it. But just watch as you're seeing now people are working more and getting less. And that will continue.
Asha Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, my humble obeisances at your feet. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, my question is that I've seen with some of my family friends over here in Canada, they have around, there are 4 members in house. So 2 kids and husband, wife, and 2 kids are working. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 cars and 2 bikes. And people are, in a hurry to get a bigger house. So when I asked them, why do you need 4 cars in one house and 2 bikes extra? So if you have that extra money, why can't you help people, or maybe do something else which is really useful for the people who are in need, or maybe something that is good for the environment? They said, we do donations in the winters, but this is given by God. So why not have it? God is giving us, God is blessing us with 4 cars and 2 bikes and all kind of stuff. So why not have it? So my question is that, Guru Maharaj, that how can I train my child how to have the basic necessities, the minimum necessities. And is it necessary that if she is living in a house, that she has to think of having a bigger house? And when I ask them, they say that we are doing all this for our kids, so the kids can live happily in future. So my question is that how can I ask her to remain in the basic necessities without opting for these too much of luxuries and too much of comforts, like how
Yeah.
folk
Well,
house.
they're not happy in the present, and they're trying to make their kids happy in the future. So it's like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so I can go, Maharaj, that why are people always thinking that whatever they are doing, it's for their kids, buying a bigger house or
That's
buying
just an excuse. Well, there's some truth in it, but the thing is, what do you need to live? You don't need much. Personal needs are very basic. If you live beyond the needs, then you have to work hard, and you have to struggle, and you have to use time away from, from the real goal of life, which is self-realization.
yeah.
So
And
I find a lot of devotees spend too much time on their material life and not enough time on their spiritual life, because they're just absorbed in their material life. Becomes a responsibility.
yes, Maharaj. And they are tensed about the mortgages and loans that they have to repay.
Yeah, people they have a mortgage, and then they take out a loan to pay the mortgage, and then they have a double mortgage. It's like, and then the interest rates on the mortgage. You have to understand this particular lifestyle that has been created has not been created by God. It's created by the devil. It's like it's a horrible lifestyle. Living in boxes we call apartments, stacked up high in the sky, pollution, noise in the cities, traffic. I was just in Chicago not long ago, a few days ago. There was an accident in one of the lanes, and the cars were backed up for miles. Everything was stopped. Miles and miles and miles of cars not moving. Yeah, I mean, this is you just listen to Prabhupada. He explains these things in detail. Simple living, high thinking. It doesn't mean you can't have, some nice things in your home, but why work hard? That's the whole thing. Working hard is for animals. It's not for people. God provided the donkey and the horse for working hard, not for people.
So Maharaj, should I tell my
Yeah, Tato Brahma Jigyasa. Human form of life is for God realization. Take care of your needs.
okay, Maharaj.
We have to understand we've been given a whole false set of values and a whole lifestyle that goes along with that falsity, and we consider it normal. It's not normal. It's you can see it just causes so many problems, both for the individual and for the earth. Prabhupada's purport is clear. We don't see that. We're still plugged into this, and we're trying to adjust the present situation to make it work better. It doesn't work. It'll only go to hell. It'll get worse and worse and worse. There are so many cars on the road. The roads are becoming congested. There's so much pollution. People's mental state of existence is, there's insanity is coming everywhere. Just like on the 4th of July here in America, 3 random shootings of people. People just take guns and are shooting people. It's crazy. The whole society is sick. And decent people are caught up in it. They don't know what to do. And devotees can't figure out what to do either. They just go along with it. And Prabhupada gave us the formula, live simply and become God conscious. That's it.
Yes,
And it
Maharaj.
takes community, not these little individual families. It takes community. Community is actually the foundation for a normal civilization.
Yes, Maharaj.
The brahmacharis, the brahmacharis and the sannyasis can travel. They can live in the cities. They can go and preach here and there. And the grihastas should have a stable lifestyle. I mean, I can just sit here all day listing the anomalies of this society. I could give you, I could speak for hours on all the problems in society, but it wouldn't do any good because you know all of it. The whole thing is that we are living against nature and against the laws of God. Therefore, we have problems. Those who live in tune with nature, which are the laws of God, live happily and peacefully.
Yes,
I mean,
Maharaj.
just listen to Srila Prabhupada, read his books. Look what he's telling us in this purport here. It's quite evident. It's clear. And we get a little bit of happiness in family life, and we forget all about the problems, and we think everything is fine. You can't even walk the streets at night in many cities around the world. It's too dangerous. Crime is everywhere. Drugs are everywhere. We've created a society that is based on exploitation, not on aesthetic and moral values. Do we need cars? Do we need big roadways? Do we need all this machinery that's controlling our life? It's been pushed upon us, and a society and a civilization has been created around it, and we accept it as normal. It's not normal. Look what it's doing. So, Srila Prabhupada came as a emissary from Krishna, from the spiritual world, to teach us not only about God consciousness, but how to live.
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Live like Krishna lived. You can still have a modern amenities. I mean, Prabhupada wasn't against modernization, but he was against the exploitation that comes with all of these things.
I don't have so much of modernization, a very simple house, very simple living. But Maharaj, they tell me that you are not working hard to get more luxuries, more, better cars, or, more money. Why are you not doing that? How do I answer them? Because they think that I'm doing it purposely, but I'm happy with what I am having.
Yeah, there is an old saying, misery loves company. If you're miserable, you want to invite somebody else into your misery, so your misery doesn't seem as bad as it is. If you have to suffer alone, that's bad. But if you suffer with somebody else, it's still suffering, but it's not as bad.
Yeah.
Misery loves company.
Yes, Maharaj, I understand. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Hare.
People used to come when I used to go out on Sankirtan, they would say, why aren't you working? Why don't you get a job? It's like, They said, I'm working for God. He's a supreme employer. And he gives good benefits and a lot of time off also. If you serve the Lord, God will provide everything nicely for you.
Yes,
That's if you follow his instructions. If you make your own plans separately, people want him. Therefore, greed is an expression of lust. When lust is not satisfied, greed extends itself outward. Lust means, more and more material arrangements, more and more material things. Just look at the way we live. We exploit the earth. How many different types of computers are there? How many different types of cars are there? How many different types of houses? We just create more and more varieties of the same thing. That's all. We call it something new.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
How many people die in car accidents? My God. Tens and thousands of people every year die in car accidents. Others are injured for life. Prabhupada said we are not against the car. We are against the idea of using the car for sense gratification. He said if you use it for Krishna's service, then it'll also provide, it won't be a source of struggle. It'll be a source of service. Because people want to be separate from God, they're missing that element of life, which is satisfaction. So they try to find satisfaction in a false way by having more and more material things. But when you're with Krishna, when you are connected with Krishna, it doesn't matter how much you have or don't have, you're satisfied.
I cannot explain that to them, Maharaj, because they think that I'm doing it purposely, but I'm happy. I'm happy with what I am. I cannot explain that happiness to them.
Yeah, happiness is an experience. You can try, by your example, they can learn. But if they think their way is right, what can you teach them?
Yes,
There's a whole lecture by Prabhupada. He talks about the whole thing. You can find that lecture. Let's see, 1972. I think it was September 19th. Let's see. It's from the first canto, third chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, the appearance of Krishna and Balaram. And Prabhupada talks about, how people in India were living simply, happily. They had everything they need. And now they come into India and they tell the people, you're not happy because you don't have television, you don't have motor cars, you don't have this, you don't have that. You're not happy. Really, what they want them to do is spend money so they can prosper. That's it.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. I don't have television at my house. When you said this now, I don't have a television at my house. Yes, it's been a long time, maybe 4 years now.
You sound very happy. I think that's all due to the fact that your life is not so encumbered by all of this unnecessary, time wasting things.
Yes, Maharaj, that's true. I don't have time, so I don't want to waste the time.
Time is short. Nowadays, people have to go like a half a mile to the store. They jump in the car. I
I
was
walk,
just,
Raj, I walk from here to the store, come back with the groceries. Sometimes I go by transit, but sometimes I go by walk. And whenever I'm going by walk, I talk to the trees, I talk to the squirrel, I give them some nuts. I feel so peaceful and so happy rather than being amidst of people. I better feel good when I'm with the trees and with squirrel.
and you can also meet people that way.
When I meet, I say Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Sounds like you understand that, simplicity is the principle of satisfaction.
Yes, Maharaj.
The more you give a person, the more unsatisfied they become.
It's true, Maharaj.
Yeah. It's like I was in Detroit and I was staying in an apartment across the street from the temple. And they wanted to drive me across the street. I said, I'll just cross the street and walk there. So, it's like, you get in the car, you have to start your car up, you waste gas. And then you just drive for like 1/16 of a mile, and then you're at your destination. You mean, just listen to Srila Prabhupada. That's all you have to do, and you'll see when he speaks about these things. Especially when he speaks first canto, 10th chapter, verses 4, 5, and 6. This particular verse, and there's a few other verses that Prabhupada expands about the futility and the soul-killing nature of our present society. It's not healthy materially, and it's not prosperous. It's not, and it takes away from our spiritual life. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Aisha. I'm glad you're with us to give us some enlightenment from a practical and personal experience. Thank you.
Oh, Maharaj, my humble obeisance at your feet, Maharaj. I'm just following. I just listen to your talks. I just listen to Prabhupada's talks. And from childhood, I have lived very simple life, Maharaj, and I'm just continuing that. That's it.
Good. You sound like you're healthy too.
Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah, I'm happy, Maharaj. That yes, I'm really happy. I don't know. As you said, I cannot express or I cannot explain the happiness. That happiness one has to experience. So I'm really happy, Maharaj. And I'm happy that I'm at your feet. That is the $1 million happiness, Maharaj.
It's all Srila Prabhupada's mercy.
Yes, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj, for explaining that so beautifully. Thank you. Ananda Pandit Prabhuji, do you have any question? Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to assembled devotees. I have two questions. First one, isn't there a contradiction in the fact that the earth is our mother and at the same time it is not our planet? That is, then earth is not our true nature. And the second question is, do we have a simple answer on the question, is earth flat or round?
I didn't hear that second question.
Do we have a simple answer on the question, is earth flat or round?
What do you think?
I don't know.
Come on, you know. You're just playing, acting like you don't know.
I think it is flat.
Prabhupada said, everywhere I walk, it's flat. But if you see it from, it's a globe. Yeah, I mean, it's in the Shastras too. The earth is round. That's all. We don't need to make experiments. We just take the words of the authority. That's all. What's the first question? I didn't catch that.
Isn't there a contradiction in the fact that the Earth is our mother and at the same time it is not our planet? That is, the Earth is not our true nature.
No, it's your nature when you're in the material world, because you have a material body. So she provides for the needs of the body. So she provides, food, water, air. All of this is provided by the earth because we can't live in the body we have unless we have these things. So in that sense, she's mother, yeah. Talking from the fact that we are in the material world, yeah. But our real mother is our spiritual mother. Srimati Radharani is our real mother.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Kanchanabja Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, you're mentioning about listening to Srila Prabhupada, and by listening to Srila Prabhupada, we'll understand this better. And I've also understood that you also listen to Srila Prabhupada daily. So while I've been thinking actually recently, I really need to listen to Prabhupada every day. I need to listen to Prabhupada every day. So while I've been on this call, I downloaded the Prabhupada app, the Lectures and Bhajans app, and I was just wondering, Maharaj, if you have a recommendation of how we should daily listen to Prabhupada. Should we go through the Bhagavatam lectures? Should we go through, because there's so many different folders and different ways we could start hearing Prabhupada every day. Is there something that you recommend?
Yeah. Well, I pick out my own sequences. And so what I do is Prabhupada commented on, he gave lectures on the first canto, second canto, third canto, fifth canto, sixth canto, and seventh canto. So he did lectures on just on 6 of the cantos. So start with the first canto, and then in the way the lectures are aligned, they're usually in chronological order, usually by date. Some places they do it by places, but most of it's by date. Now you just every day listen to 1 or 2 lectures. What some devotees do, and this is even more effective, is you just take 1 lecture and just listen to it over and over again. When you listen to it over and over again, you really go deep into that lecture, and then you can speak on it. You can give classes on it. It becomes, because the more you hear the lecture, the more you get out of it. Because each time something new or something more comes out. That's one way of doing it. But if you want to do it the other way, it's just one day, every day, listen to a Bhagavatam class. And then you have nectar devotion, Prabhupada gave. You have his morning walks. The morning walks are a lot of discussions on day-to-day topics. Morning walks deal with a lot of practical things that are going on in the world in a Krishna conscious, with a Krishna conscious focus. And then you have his room conversations, you have his festival lectures, you have his arrival lectures, you have his ceremonial lectures such as weddings and initiations. I mean, there's so much Prabhupada gave. You can't exhaust it in many lifetimes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. I think I like the suggestions. I've been doing this actually with some other classes where I just hear the same one over and over again. And you're right, it really then sinks in. So I should start doing this with Prabhupada.
Yeah. I specifically like Prabhupada's first canto lectures. I think that are very powerful and very relevant. And the seventh cantos also, I mean, they're all interesting. Prabhupada's third canto lectures are amazing. They're all, I mean, you can't compare. Each of them has their own quality of focus. Prabhupada brings out the points. I was just reading an article today, and I'll give you a little bit of insight on the article. This article is from the July-August Back to Godhead magazine this year, July-August. And it's here. It's by Chaitanya Charna, and it's delivering the essence from the past, present, and future. And he makes 3 points. There are traditionalists who live for the past. There's existentialists who live for the present, and utopians who live for the future. And then he goes on to say religious teachers are often presumed to be traditionalists. But Prabhupada was a transcendentalist. He knew how to take the tradition, place it within the present, according to the present situation, along with understanding how it would impact on the future. So Prabhupada was able to amalgamate these 3 aspects of existence, past, present, and future, where there's different categories of people who focus on one of the 3 as the emphasis of how to live. He was a traditionalist, but he wasn't simply taking you back to the old way of living. He was showing how the values and some of the ways of living can be transported into the present, amalgamated with the present lifestyle, and practice in order to get the benefit of self-realization. Prabhupada is a genius. Just to study how he did things is a seminar in itself. You know, how he presented what he was presenting is a whole study in itself. So this article, I would recommend devotees to read it. It's this is the magazine. It's the front cover has Srila Prabhupada on the cover there. July, August this year. So probably just came out in some areas. Really good, really great article. It's worth reading and rereading.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you, devotees. So, are there more questions or reflections from devotees' side?
Okay, I think that's
Okay,
it.
Maharaj. Okay, Maharaj.
Thank you.
So if there are no questions or reflections, we can end today's session here. Maharaj, before that, I would just give a reminder about tomorrow's class. Tomorrow's class we have with ISKCON Harrisburg at 8 a.m. EST, 1 p.m. UK time, and 5:30 p.m. India time, IST. And tomorrow's topic would be Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, verse 36. 1:11:36.
Thank you. I didn't have that information. 1:11:36. So I'll give class tomorrow, and Friday I don't think I'll be available, but at least tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Maharaj.
much, Maharaj, for your time and association. Thank you so much, devotee, for joining. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Father ki jai.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, dear devotees. Thank you, Vrinda Kumari Devi. My humble obeisances to everyone. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Gurudev.
Obeisances to you all. I will end the call. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.